Hi guys, welcome back to ModCons. Guess what? I have another fabulous guest with me today, and not just any guest. It is the Mayor of Kensington and Chelsea, Will Lane. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, look at this chain; it's incredible. So I want to know a little bit about you. First of all, how long have you been the mayor?
Been the mayor for about 6 months now, Laura.
Yes.
So we're about halfway through so far. It's not a long term compared to some political roles.
Yeah.
So just a year,
Yeah.
and it's going quickly.
And you're the youngest mayor of Kensington and Chelsea. How does that feel? Does that have any impact? Do people notice?
I think people definitely do notice. A lot of times when you're out and about and you're meeting people, they do just say, "Oh, excuse me, I'm ever so sorry to mention this, but you're very young to be a mayor." And I just think that's actually really nice.
Yes.
People sometimes say it as if they think, oh, that he might be offended
No.
if I point out that he's the youngest mayor. But no, I quite like it when people do that. It's great.
I tell you what, I did see you out and about in Duke of York Square, and you were getting swarmed by people.
I know.
So it really is a thing that people sort of flock to you, which is a nice thing. Is it the chain? Is it your charm?
I think it's partly the chain. I think, and it's going to be quite difficult going back to my former life because that did not happen before becoming mayor.
No way.
Before wearing this, and I think the chain does have a big effect because there's a couple of engagements I've done this year without the chain.
Yeah.
You do notice a big difference. People don't know who you are in the same way. People don't flock to you. There's I don't know if it's because it's gold or because it's so big or whatever the reason.
Big.
It's pretty big. And I think it just allows people to easily identify, oh, that's the mayor.
Yeah.
Anyone knows when they see the chain, that's who that person is, and they generally want a photo or want to come up to chat to you about something.
Yeah. So you're the first citizen of the borough, and what does that actually mean?
It means I get to go first in everything. I get to speak first.
Okay.
I think what it means really is that you're the representative, the ceremonial representative of all the people who live in the borough, no matter their age, their background. You're there on their behalf when you're attending various events, and then it also means when people see you, they know the council is interested in this, the borough's interested in this. We've not been forgotten about it. It's showing that the borough has a presence at whatever event you go to.
Okay, all right. So tell me, how did you actually become the mayor? What happened, and why did you want to become the mayor as well?
Yeah, no, great question. So you have to be a councillor to become the mayor. That's the first step, really. And then once you're on the council, the way it works formally is all the members of the council vote for who they want to be the mayor. So you have a big meeting in town hall, and all the councillors vote for you. I think in practice, what happens is the leader of the majority party really gets to make the final decision on who the mayor will be, because the majority group in the council chamber will generally all vote the same way.
Yeah.
So
it has to be pretty awkward to not vote you in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the point. Once the majority group and the leader of whoever's the majority on the council decides that they want you, it's quite unlikely. It would be very awkward if various groups of people on the council decided not to vote you in. But I think one of the good things about the mayoralty is that it was Labour councillors and Conservative councillors who voted me in, and part being mayor is you're not meant to take sides between different parties on the council. You're meant to maintain a certain level of independence. So it doesn't mean you can't have your own personal views, but whilst you're mayor, you don't express them.
Yeah, and is that easy to do actually when you're out and about? Do people, obviously some people must know you as a councillor, so they'll know sort of who you're affiliated with, but is it easy for you to keep it neutral?
I think it's easier than I thought it would be. I think I was a bit worried when I started, that thinking, oh, that people know he's a Conservative councillor and they'll just, they'll forget about the fact that I'm mayor and they'll want to ask me about party political stuff. But actually, that's not the case. And again, going back to wearing the chain, I think one of the good things about it is people see you wearing that and they think, oh, that's a ceremonial role. It's political conversations, the wrong sort of conversation. In the horse race, who's doing well in politics, what you think about policies X, Y, and Z. Most of the time, people know not to ask you about that, and that makes it much easier, because if you're not being asked about it, it's there's no temptation to start talking about it.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. And so I mean, it's a pretty full-on job. Do you do anything else, or do you still do council work as well?
That's a good question. Well, I have a day job, which is working for a trade association called the Advertising Association. But in terms of other council work, generally for the year you're mayor, you take a bit of a step back from that, because it would just be, A, I think it would be too much, and B, the mayor's meant to be completely independent. So if there's a licensing application or planning application or something of that nature, that you'd usually deal with those when you're on the council. But when you're mayor, you don't want to sway anything either way. So it's actually right that you take a step back from those other duties that you do on the council.
And so so you said you have a day job as well. That I mean, how do you juggle the two? That must be quite a lot.
It's a good question, Laura. I think a number of things. I think having colleagues in a day job that are understanding that you wear different hats and you have this other role, and will give you a bit of flex in, so you can work earlier one morning, later the next morning, that sort of stuff. I think also just recognizing that you're going to lose evenings, weekends, and you're not going to have as much free time this year. I think one can be used earlier in life to just always like getting home from work at 6 o'clock and always being able to like flop in front of the TV and just chill out. And that's not really the case anymore. Most evenings or most weekends you have engagements on, you have mayoral events and duties to do, and I think just getting used to that helps.
And was it easy for you to actually sort of get into the swing of it? Because it is quite a change from going from doing just your normal job to a full-on schedule alongside a normal job.
It wasn't that bad. I think being a ward councillor first, so as I said before, you have to be a councillor first to become the mayor. That's quite helpful, because you're already used to, some evenings you might have a planning committee, or some evenings you might be doing casework on behalf of people who live in your ward. So there's already a bit of that. Like mayoral commitments, they're definitely a lot more time than just being a ward councillor. But I'd say it wasn't a sudden shock. I think it was sort of gradually working up to doing more things in the evenings and weekends outside of my day job, and actually being mayor was just a continuation of that process.
Amazing. So what has been your highlight so far, or your most sort of interesting thing that you've been to or experienced in the role of mayor?
That's a really good question. I think we had Remembrance Sunday commemorations a few weeks ago, and being able to mark such an important event as mayor, remembering all of the servicemen and women throughout history, but especially in the First and Second World War, who gave up their lives in defence of our country. Of course, I've commemorated that in previous years, not being mayor, just as normal people do, but leading those commemorations in the borough felt like a great honour, and definitely one of the highlights of the year.
Amazing. Yeah, I do love the way everyone comes together for Remembrance Sunday. I think it's such a wonderful thing. So yeah, it's amazing that you get to be, in charge of it all. Really,
it is. It feels like I'm very lucky to be able to do that. To be honest, because Remembrance Sunday is so important to so many people, quite rightly.
Yes.
Being at the head of those commemorations in a borough of hundreds of thousands of people felt like a great honour. So there's lots of highlights of the year, of course, but that one definitely stands out.
Amazing, that's great. Also, what's your most sort of challenging aspect of this role?
That's a good question. I think we've touched on it before, but time management is definitely challenging. You have to. I have a great team helping me who help manage diaries, but you often get multiple engagements and you can't go to everything that you get invited to, and sometimes you'll have personal commitments, or sometimes you'll be unwell, and I think managing that time, especially with a day job, that's quite tough. I think the other thing that's tough sometimes is occasionally you do have conversations with people who do really need help, or really want, whether it's a housing case or something like that. And as mayor, you genuinely do not have any power in relation to helping them. So it's sometimes quite difficult to have to tell them that I can write to someone on your behalf, or I can let the relevant person know in the town hall who can help you with that. But I as mayor, I don't have any formal power to step in there.
You can't give the keys to a new house.
No,
or anything like that.
You can't do that. And of course, there's people at the council that do have a specific role in doing that and can help.
Absolutely.
But often you're out and about, especially when people don't often have elsewhere to turn, and can sometimes ask you to help them with something as the mayor. And you just have to. You can help them in the sense that you can write to someone on their behalf, but you can't actually solve the problem yourself.
It's tricky. It's tricky. Okay, so let's go back a bit. How did you become a Conservative councillor, first of all, and what made you interested in politics, and how can we get more younger people interested as well?
That's a really great question. I think there's two questions in there, really. One is being interested in politics, full stop. I've been interested in politics, honestly. I really think since I can remember growing up. I remember being in the living room as a child, watching Newsnight with my mum and talking to her about it, and having dinner again with my mum, talking about this is many years ago. This is back when Tony Blair was well, which is a long time ago for me. But I know it won't be for some people. But I could just always, and I mentioned my mum. It's probably partly down to her and the fact she was interested in politics. So growing up with her and talking to her about everything that was going on, I think I've always had an interest in it. Always liked it. I can't remember when it started. It's just always been there. And then in terms of being a Conservative, I think that happened a bit later, really. I think your political views do change over time, and I think growing up I was probably more liberal. But as I've gotten older, I know I'm not that old, but just as time goes on, my views have become probably more conservative with a small c.
Okay. And so what would you sort of suggest to I guess the Conservative Party, or any party actually, if they're trying to, I guess, recruit younger people, to get people interested in politics? What would be your sort of idea of a plan that might work?
Well, I mean, I suppose as mayor I'm impartial, so my suggestion would be to any political party.
Absolutely.
Not just one. But I think to get young people involved in politics and civic life in general, I think you need to have an atmosphere that genuinely accepts discussion of the issues that they care about. I think too often in politics, what's carrying the news in any given day is often a matter which doesn't affect young people. I mean, I think the biggest issue affecting young people is housing. Basically, full stop. I don't think there's a bigger one. Things like student loan debt. I had to take out a full student loan. I don't even want to look at it now. No. I don't even like logging onto the website.
Horrible.
Because it's probably spiraled out of control and it's like over 100 grand. I have no idea.
Oh no.
So, but those issues, I just don't think are talked about that much. And it's often, I don't want to name any issues in particular, but it's often issues that really aren't affecting young people that are carrying the news cycle, and politicians are talking about non-stop. So I think that's probably a way to get more young people engaged. And I think also a political career being a good career. I think a lot of young people think I can earn more being a lawyer or a banker, or I can have a much better life. I'm not going to be harassed by people. I'm not going to be all over social media having people sending me awful sorts of threats. Or it's actually, I think, especially being an MP, being a mayor is very easy compared to that. But being an MP, where you are under a lot of pressure. I think there's probably a lot of young people who just look at that now and say, I don't know why I'd want to do that. I'd much rather do something else with my life. Anything else. So I think there's a couple. Obviously, there's still people that want to be MPs, but I think that's a couple of things in there.
Talking of wanting to be an MP, because a lot of councillors kind of do that as a stepping stone to actually get into government. or politics at a general sort of national scale. Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
But I think it's not something I'd want to rush. I think
Yeah.
this is just my opinion, but
Yeah.
I think you want to have a career in the private sector
Yeah.
first before becoming an MP.
Very wise,
I think
I'd
for
say.
lots. Sorry, I shouldn't say private sector. Obviously, it can be public sector. You can be a teacher
Yes.
or a doctor. What I really mean is a career outside of politics
A
first.
real job,
basically,
yeah.
before becoming an MP. So I would like to become an MP at some point, but
Okay.
I think it's important because that's how most people live. Most people are not professional politicians.
Yeah.
You need to understand what real work's like. I think secondly, you need something to fall back on because a lot of MPs lose their seat after just one term.
Yes.
And become unemployed, and actually it's quite hard for them to find jobs sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think you need a proper career, skills, contacts to almost be there for you in case politics doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But also because you need to understand that's actually what most people do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I think the best way to help form a country or reform a country is if you know what you're doing in the real world. If you've just been in politics and you haven't done anything else before, how could you? There's no scope for you to understand.
That's true. And politics isn't like most jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of politics is things like doing speeches.
Yes.
Like shaking hands.
Oh, you're ready to go then.
Well, yeah,
he's a great speech giver, might I just say? Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
it's true.
That's very kind. By the way, I'm not saying politics is all speeches.
No, but yeah,
there's a lot of reading through complex policy papers and documents and all that sort of stuff as well. But I think it's quite a lot of the work's quite different from most ordinary careers that people have. So I think do one of those first and actually become good at that, and then a bit later on in life say I've got a proper career and I want to kind of give back and do something else and get involved in politics. I think that's I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's a good idea. So I mean, we're moving forward with sort of modern technologies, with AI and all that stuff. Do you think there's a place for AI and modern technologies to kind of really propel governments and people being involved in politics through AI? I mean, obviously it's already happening through social media and stuff like that. People are getting bombarded when there's an election or something with messages from various parties. But are there any other ways that you think could really benefit?
Yeah, it's again a good question. I mean, you can separate all modern technologies, and then you could chat specifically about AI.
I'm
right?
keeping it general.
You could spend the whole podcast talking about AI. To be honest with you, I think what I'd say on that is modern technology is just a tool like any other tool. Can be used for bad purposes.
Yes.
You see that sometimes with the way things like deep fakes are used, but technology can also be used benevolently for good as well. And I think in politics we should just take that same approach. Say we're not going to specifically, ban certain users of AI or certain technologies. Like we want to embrace all modern technology, but I think it's using it like any tool. Using it in a good way.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to do. And I think if we think about this podcast and we think about the internet and people's access to information and content, it is great. I think it's fantastic that we don't just have 5 TV channels anymore. People are forced to watch when they get home. People can go online and I could name a number of websites, like whether it's Substack or YouTube or Twitch or whatever. People can go online and consume like anything, content they want. Like, it's completely up to them. It's their choice. And also anyone can be a content creator as well. It's not gate kept in the same way it used to be. You needed to get a contract with ITV or the BBC if you wanted to produce content. Anyone can do it now. So I think all that stuff's great. But I think just as the small word of caution would just be like any tool, just needs to be used for good.
Yeah, absolutely. Very wise, very wise. That's why you're the mayor, because that's why you're the mayor. So you are on ModCons, and ModCons does mean sort of modern conservatism, modern conservatives. So what does actually modern conservatives mean to you?
I think think it's all about looking towards the future.
Yeah.
And whatever's happened, and I should say this is the case in any party, not just the Conservative Party, but whatever's happened in a party's political past, not being too fixated on that.
Yeah.
And actually thinking we've got a bit of a blank slate here, and the opportunities are wide open.
Yeah.
So it's thinking about what do we want the future of politics and political life in our country to be, rather than being too fixated, because there's lots of problems with political life in our country. But
yeah.
I think sometimes we can focus on too much. So I think it's about being forward looking, deciding what we want our political future to be, and actually realizing that it's all in our hands.
Yeah.
It only takes a small number of dedicated people. You see that in events throughout history, whether it's the French Revolution or other big momentous political moments in history.
Yeah.
It takes a small amount of highly dedicated people to decide on something, and it all gets changed. Yeah. So I think that would be my 2 cents there.
Oh, amazing. All right, so your term as mayor is 1 year. So by the end of the year, what do you hope to be your sort of proudest achievement? Or maybe you've already done it already. It might have been the Remembrance Day, but is there anything else that you hope to have achieved?
I think the Remembrance Sunday was definitely up there. I think more broadly, just meeting a really large number of people who live in the borough. Yeah. I think that's the main thing I hope to achieve, even though I can't be all places at once.
Yeah.
it's getting out there, and I think especially normal people. You do go to some fancy events as mayor, but you also go to youth clubs, local schools, places where you do just meet normal working people who live in our borough.
Yeah.
And I think meeting them, showing them that the council's there, that the borough's there, that we care about what they're doing and that they're doing a great job. I think that's the really big achievement of being mayor.
Yeah. Okay. We're almost at the end, but I just want to maybe wrap up. Is there anything else you'd like to share, maybe about your role, or also you do sponsor a charity as the mayor, so maybe give that a plug.
No, great question, Laura, and thanks for reminding me about that. So each mayor has a mayoral charity for the year. My charity this year is the Kensington Chelsea Foundation, otherwise known as the K&C Foundation. Essentially, they are a charity that operates throughout the whole borough, whether it's Chelsea or North Kensington, Earls Court, and they support a lot of smaller players who do really vital work in the borough, whether it's around mental health, whether it's about improving skills for young people, or whether it's about helping people who have problems with addiction. They support often one-man bands or really small charities all around the borough doing great work, and it's been a real privilege to support them this year, and to help them raise a bit of money, but also just spread awareness of the work they're doing throughout the whole of Kensington Chelsea, because some people may not know this, but Kensington Chelsea is a very mixed borough. It's not, believe it or not, it is not all rich people. There's a lot of people in our borough who really do need help and really do need support, and Kensington Chelsea Foundation gets them that support.
Love that. Oh, is there any final thought from you?
Well, apart from just everyone keep on watching ModCons.
Thanks.
And thank you so much, Laura, for inviting me on.
No,
it's been a pleasure.
So thank you so much, Will Lane, the Mayor of Kensington and Chelsea, our youngest mayor to date. Thank you so much for joining us. And ModCons, thank you for tuning in. Do not forget Monday midday for the next ModCon special. Bye.
Thanks, Laura.